everybody, it's Chef Deborah Scott from Vintana Wine and Dine. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, it's great to be here with you guys today on beautiful downtown Escondido. Not the best of weather, but it's actually always beautiful here. So happy to be here with you to highlight the great food bank event that we are sponsoring and our dish here at Vintana.
Well, that's great. Well, we've just got a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So the first thing is, where did the idea for the restaurant come from?
Well, you know, David and I always kind of brainstorm and we add in the rest of the group to help out, but I was looking at the windows and thinking about the idea that we are so wine-centric here. So what came to mind was vin, which is the root for wine, and then vintana, which is Latin for window. And since we have these high, beautiful windows overlooking the hills of Escondido, paired with the fact that we are so wine-centric, it just made a lot of sense to combine the two and come up with a nice, strong name like Vintana.
Well, that's awesome. And so that leads us to where do you like most about where this restaurant is located?
Well, you know, I guess for me, I come from Virginia, and a little more of a rural feel than downtown San Diego. And when I first came up here with my partner David Cohn, I was like, you know, it seems like a very comfortable community. I was a little concerned about the fact that we were on the top of a dealership, mind you. It's a little bit of an unusual kind of situation, but at the same time, it sounded intriguing as well. So very excited now that we've opened and we've been welcomed by the community. People here are so friendly, and it's just been an amazing experience.
This is something I think everybody's going to want to know is, what is the ingredient that you use most often in your cooking?
Chilies. You know, mind you, I like heat, but I also like a balance. So I love using chilies, but I love roasting them and making things kind of savory and musty and earthy. But you also want to balance that out so that it's palatable as well. But I do love my chilies.
Well, that sounds enticing. I want some chilies right now. You have won several awards for your culinary talent, and we'd like to know, what is your secret to keeping menus fresh and exciting?
Listening to my guest, because the most important thing about the restaurant business are our guests. So if they're happy, we're happy.
What was the first thing that you learned to cook?
You know, it would have to be Outer Banks seafood. It would have to be out there with the blue claw crabs in a big pot on a grate at the beach. And my dad, it's so funny, my dad would cook this with me, but he didn't like crabs. So we would cook it on the beach, or we would cook it out on the back porch, but never in the house because my dad would complain for days. But that's definitely my first recollection.
When you were a kid, was there anything you refused to eat?
I've never liked liver. I just don't know. It's just off-putting to me. It's kind of dry and chalky. Now, mind you, a lot of people like it. I'm not trying to diss that, but it's kind of dry and chalky, so I kind of steer away from that. So maybe we'll start moving into the dining room and kind of get a feel for the restaurant. We have a poster here that talks about Dine Out Escondido and gives you some facts. January 22nd through the 28th. You can go to visitescondido.com to get more information. And this is all part of Dine Out Escondido Restaurant Week, which we are a part of. So we're excited.
You know, I'm curious, who is it that you love to cook for the most?
Oh, of course my guest. Of course my guest. You know, it's the most rewarding thing about this job is, or this position, I don't really consider it a job, is interaction with my guest. And for us to cook something, especially something new, and then to go out into the dining room and say, how do you like it? And the guest to say, it's amazing. It's the best feeling in the world. So I'd say it's got to be my most valued and greatest thrill is to please our guest.
If you could choose one cooking tip to share, what would that be?
I would say seasoning. Okay, seasoning, because I even have line cooks that don't season correctly. I know at home people don't think about it, isolating the product, seasoning it properly. I think it makes all the difference in the world and really brings the flavors out. So the simple salt and pepper sounds so simple, but yet in a lot of cases it's not used correctly. We're entering now the kitchen. This is our great line we have here. Chef Brian Brown is our executive chef here. If you sneak into here, I bet you can catch a glimpse of him right there through the line. There he is, the handsome guy right there. And this is his line here, his kitchen. In my restaurants, the executive chef of that restaurant is in charge of the kitchen. I am simply here to support and to add whatever expertise I can to the experience.
Speaking of kitchens, do you have any advice for people that aren't quite comfortable in the kitchen yet?
You know, for me, it's an expression of yourself cooking. I don't think there's any right or wrong, unless you're talking about baking. Then you're really going to get messed up if you don't follow a recipe. But when it comes to savory food, I think that it's really important just to express yourself and to experiment. Experiment on your family, experiment on yourself. Use ingredients that you love. And I think that's really, if you're enjoying it, if you're enjoying the experience, that's really most of it right there. Just have a good time with it.
Well, you certainly work with food 24/7. Do you ever dream about food when you go home?
Oh, I keep a notepad by my bed. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine just told me about a pen where when you press it down on paper, it lights up the pen while you're writing in the dark. So I've been thinking I'm going to be trying that one because it sounds like such a fun idea. And in the middle of the night, I get some of my best ideas, so yes. So now we're entering the dining room, as you can see. You can pan out and see the beautiful hills of Escondido. And what a great view we have with these gigantic windows and such a beautiful view. You know, of course we have the dealership, but when you look beyond, it's incredible in my opinion. At night, the skies just light up from the mountains, and it's just incredible to experience.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, you know, I'm still curious, though. I got to know, what's your favorite meal of the day?
My favorite meal of the day is in breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I would have to say breakfast, but it's so, for me, it's kind of that thing that starts me off in the morning and that ritual. And I like to play around with it too. You know, I like to think outside the box of eggs or whatnot. I might throw some skirts on fire in there, or I might throw any kind of protein in or whatever, but I love to do something kind of healthy but kind of hearty. I have this organic seeded bread I get, and I spread avocado on there. Sometimes I'll put sprouts on, maybe I'll put a little skirts on fire on, maybe I'll put some avocado oil, just kind of mix it up and play with it. But it's just fun, a fun part of the day for me. It's quiet, I'm up by myself, and it kind of starts my day off right.
All right, so what'd you have for dinner last night?
This is going to be a funny one because it's not a normal thing for me. I had kugel for dinner last night. Reason being, one of my great friends, Jerry Caswell and her sister, they brought me over a casserole of apricot kugel. And it's not something I normally have. I'm not a big carb person, but I sure did enjoy it. But that's not my normal fare. Normally I go for like a carne asada Caesar at Costera, or if I'm up here, again, I might go for the skirts on fire, or I might go for our Asian chicken salad, which is incredible, and Greg can attest to the fact that I have that salad regularly when I visit up here, so it's pretty amazing. Now we're in the top area of the dining room at our Escondido restaurant, Vintana, and as you can see, for me, these are my favorite seats in the entire restaurant because you're kind of above everything and you've got that amazing view, and it kind of sets you apart a little bit. And so I always recommend when people first come to try sitting up here because it does give you that kind of escape of everything that's happening around you, as well as the beautiful view of the hills beyond.
Well, it certainly is a beautiful place. We can all agree to that. I'm curious though, who is your biggest fan? Do you know?
Who is my biggest fan? Boy, you know, I'd have to say my mom. I'd have to say my mom. And I'll tell you something, the biggest reward for me to the success I have achieved. My dad passed away a few years ago. He used to walk around the neighborhood with magazines, San Diego Magazine, Best Chef, whatever, and show all the neighbors, and they're like, yes, George, we've seen it, but he's got to show them again. And my mom kind of carries that on now. And I talk to her every single morning, and she's always telling me how proud she is of me. That's the greatest reward ever for me.
Oh, that's incredible. That is incredible.
Oh yeah, feels good.
Okay, here's an offbeat question. Choose one, wine or whiskey?
Well, I'm going to have to say wine. There's nothing wrong with whiskey on a cold day by a fire, mind you, but for an everyday beverage that complements food, and heck, look we're in Escondido, and there's amazing wines right here in Escondido. So for me, to be able to combine food with such an incredible array of vineyards locally here in Escondido and then just shortly beyond, to me it's just amazing. So I would have to say, as an everyday beverage, I would go for the wine.
I'd say that's a good choice in this area. Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, one last little question before we go to the featured dish.
Yes.
What's on your television binge watch list?
Oh, my television watch list. Oh my goodness. Well, I got to be honest with you here. I'm not a big TV watcher. Obviously, I work most of the hours for the popular shows. You could record them, mind you, but for me, I have to be honest. For me to sit out on my patio overlooking Lake Murray and Cowles Mountain with a glass of wine and some good conversation, I think that fits the bill for me. I'm just not a big TV person. Not that I mind TV, don't get me wrong, but I just think that my downtime is my downtime, and definitely enjoying beautiful San Diego and what it has to offer is the best thing in the world for me, medicine-wise, for my head and everything else.
Oh, that's great.
So now we're here at our chef's table, and this is a table that we use for 5-course dinners with pairings, of course, of wine, and of course, so we are featuring Hungry Hawk, which is a local Escondido wine. It's a front cab, and so we have decided to pair that today with the Duroc pork. This is our dish that we're doing for Dine Out San Diego. And so you have the Duroc pork, which is an all-natural product. I would say you would call it similar to, or you would equate it to a black Angus of beef. So a fine product, nice and juicy. And so we paired that with a Calvados, which Calvados a liqueur with an apple flavor with a little demi. And then we have some parsnip puree. We have some pomegranate Brussels sprouts to complete the dish, and Chef Ryan put together an incredible dish here. This will be the dish we'll be supporting the Dine Out Escondido event with, and so we urge people for the North County Food Bank to order this dish so that we can help contribute to the cause, because it's such a great cause. And we'll be featuring, as I said, through the entire week, the 22nd through the 28th of January.
What do you think it is that sets Vintana apart from the others, in the area?
Well, I think we have a lot to offer here with the view, with the beauty of the restaurant, with the fact that we also are so wine-centric. If you look here, you can walk out the door with 2-for-1 on bottles of wine here at Vintana. I think that's an amazing addition. And then maybe you might even wander downstairs and buy a Lexus while you're at it.
Certainly that's happened before, I'm sure.
Yes, it's happened to me, actually. So.
Chef Deborah Scott, thank you so much for taking us on this tour. It's been really wonderful. Any last thoughts you'd like to add?
Come to Escondido. Beautiful place to spend the day. Shop around, come over to Vintana for dinner, try the Duroc pork, and help support the food bank and Dine Out Escondido.